All right, so I want to start off with making some drums. Now, one of the really powerful features of Machine, probably my most favorite, most powerful one, is the built-in drum synths. And what I want to do to start making some drums here is just using the drum synth, set up a kick, snare, hi-hat, and then from there on resample it and bring it back as a sound. Um, so first of all, I'm here in a new project. I've got Group A here. I'm gonna load into Sound One, do Shift Browse, and go for the internal instruments, and we load up a kick to begin with. So press load. Now this kick is it's a drum synth, and it's got 8 different modes, the engines settings here. If you look on the screen itself, you get the little drop down menu, or you can do it or go out of browse, you can do it here, change it, and you've got sort of We've got here sort of something is quite 8080 to slowly moving up a little bit more, maybe 9090, or and also stuff that sounds quite analog, sort of like real drums, like real recorded studio drums. Now, every drum synth comes with its own sort of set of parameters here, and they're all a little bit different depending on the sound. And they're also a little bit kind of made up in a way. They're not very sort of very specific. They are, just some kind of quick parameters for you to influence the sound that are relevant to this. And they use their own terminology a little bit, so that it can be a little confusing, but it's actually pretty straightforward. For instance, here with the sub, this is really an 808, as you have to see. We can see just a tune and a decay, a length and a pitch, and a bend in time, which are very interesting because what a kick really is. It's just a sine wave with a pitch envelope at the beginning, like a dropping pitch, just something that goes but very fast, and you get a definition at the beginning. So in this case, the bend and the time are relating to that sort of pitch drop at the beginning, and the bend is how high it starts until it drops down to the original tuning, and the time is how long it will take to get from that higher tuning to the lower tuning. So these are just sort of the envelope parameters for the pitch drop at the beginning. And then it has an attack layer over the top where you can simulate something along the lines of a drum head hitting, like a drum beater hitting a drum head. And the tick that you get from that is sort of a noisy kind of top layer. Now, most of them are having similar parameters to that. Sometimes you can influence a bit more, a bit less. It's really worth playing with these and just seeing exactly how they are influencing the sound, mostly because of the fact that parameters like impact and filter and noise, the bend, grind, and amount, these are all a little bit sort of, made up in a way. They're not sort of relating to any kind of direct sort of drum computer in that sense. They're just made really functional and very editable. So you have to get a little bit of a feeling for it in that sense. Let's get started. Now, I want to have a kind of a kick, as I always kind of want in my music, that has a lot of bass, like a lot of body, but also a lot of character and top end from like real drums, real recorded drums, just to basically have the best of both worlds, have the nice and textured sort of sound of a real drum, but have the impact and this the solid kind of low bottom end of something like an 808 kick or any kind of synthesized kick, which is just perfect and as loud as possible, more or less. So that layering is what I want to do here as well. So like my group A1 here, I'll just, for clarity, just rename it kick. I've got this kick loaded in. We can just use step mode here on the unit just for quick programming, and you can see now it just runs. It makes a 1-bar pattern length. That's my default, and you can see it starts running down here like as in a step sequencer, and then you can just enable hits. So if I just do these two, now we will have two kicks running. first of all, I could just edit these down because I might as well have clicked these in on the software. But you know, just if you wanted to edit the velocities, for instance, I want these velocities to be the same. You can see I'm on my last note here that I played. The velocity is here. Let's just bring that back to 100 and select the first note. Also bring that back to 100. There we go. So now we have just solid velocity. Also, we're going to make drum and bass, so let's speed it up. You can just do that in the software, or you can hit tab and rotate the jog wheel until, let's go for 172. So now we're at speed. And just some quick tweakings of these parameters. I am listening to this and I think it will be a good idea to pitch it up just slightly. So I'm going to take it into the 45. Obviously, I am now doing that on the software, but you can just do that here. If we go to plugin instance, we see we've got the kick selected, got the tuning here, all the parameters that I was showing here, they are mapped out here. I want to get it, let's say 45. Now, if you know, very anal about it, you want to get it straight to the number, hold shift for a more precise movement. All right, so now here we are. Just take back the decay a little bit. We have fast music going on, so too much decay will just sort of bleed through your tune. Now you can play with these. These are very important factors, the bend and the time, just for the definition and the weight. Let's keep it here for the moment to see how that will affect the second layer later. And also the attack, or sort of the noise layer. I think we can probably get away with a little bit of this. We've got a color and an amount, so just the amount is a bit much. Color, you should look at that as a sort of an EQ filter, which brings out some top end or takes it away. So there we go. I think this is roughly a good start. Now to layer this up with a more real sounding one, just to do it very quickly and easily, I will just use duplicate function and I will select the kick that we made and I'll duplicate that to a second slot to pad number 2. Now I have the same thing twice. If we just solo that quickly. Now this is the same sound again, but let's just select a different type. So we could just run through stuff. Now this sounds pretty organic to me. So I think we can definitely do something with this. Let's bring the tuning down to the same amount as we had on the first kick. Let's play with these. I think we don't have to focus so much on the punch because the first kick already has that, the impact as well. We just want that. Just want this to be like a nice top layer. Now also, I don't want the low end of this one. I just want the sort of higher kind of harmonic stuff. So I'm gonna go again to shift browse and excuse me. We will apply a filter. So just making sure that we are on the right slot there, so that we don't replace the kick. And then here on the side, I'm going to use the internal filter, which is here. We load it up. Come out of browse. I'm going to use a high pass filter. The filter standardly loads up with a high resonance, and that's really what we don't need. We don't need any modulation. I just want to cut the low end out. So here we go. Now let's unsolo this and play them together. We could just look at the mix a little bit. We could sort of see what we can do here. But we're roughly in this area. It sounds pretty good to me. So at this moment, I've got sort of two sounds that I think sound well together, but they could just do it a little bit more gelling. So now let's just go into the group, and you know, we can just sort of actually look at this whole group as a sort of a kick bus and do some processing here. So let's just apply a little bit of saturation, saturate it, load it. Now this comes with a few different modes: tube or tape or classic, like Machine 1 version. I'm going to go for classic. I don't want it to be too difficult. Let me go somewhere down this route. Doesn't need to be too much in this case. You can obviously use different or like non-machine saturation at this stage as well, but let's just go with this now. And then I'm going to use another plug-in, standard one, internal, which is the transient master. If we go to the parameters here, it's very simple. You've got an input gain and it has a limiter at the end, but mostly you can emphasize the attack and the sustain, or like dehance it as well. Now I can make it very attacky here, and for instance a bit shorter, or we can go the other way. This gives you really nice sort of control over the sort of the more finished kind of drum. So that, you know, this will be like a good kick for us to kind of start with and start working with. Now, snare is the second part. So let's make a whole new group for it. And at the moment, I want to write a sort of a drum. This whole project will be just a drum project. Then we'll use it as a resampled kind of break later on to bring back into more elaborate projects. And then in that case, we have sort of, you know, our sort of writing and sound designing stage split out from the more creative writing and arranging kind of process.